Let's talk about this 2-hour RFK Jr. cage match he just had with very angry Democrats on live TV. Because today, RFK Jr. sat down before the Senate Finance Committee to answer questions about everything that he's done and is doing as Secretary of Health and Human Services. And the last time he was sitting before this committee, it was January for his confirmation hearing. And there, he was able to squeeze through because he was able to calm concerns from some of the skeptical Republicans that he would threaten vaccines. With him repeatedly saying in written answers to their questions, if confirmed, I will do nothing as HHS Secretary that makes it difficult or discourages people from taking vaccines. Well, since then, although he would dispute this, critics say that he has unequivocally broken that promise. I mean, it would take too long to go through everything he's done, but to name just a few things, he fired every member of a key vaccine advisory panel and replaced them with anti-vaxxers and vaccine skeptics, pulled FDA authorization for the COVID vaccines for anyone who's not unhealthy or a senior. He cut $500 million in grants for mRNA vaccine research. Under his watch, roughly a quarter of the entire health department, or some 20,000 people, either accepted offers to leave or were fired. He fired the CDC director after she refused to step down, prompting 3 more top officials to resign and protest. And now, not only have 9 former CDC directors signed an open letter accusing RFK of endangering public health, yesterday over 1,000 current and former HHS staff said the same thing and called on Trump to fire him. So when the Senate committee hearing kicked off today, Kennedy had quite a lot to answer for. Right off the bat, in his opening statement, he claimed to have overseen the busiest, most proactive administration in HHS history.
In just half a year, we've taken on food dyes, baby formula contamination, the grass loophole, fluoride in our drinking water, gas station heroin, electronic cigarettes, drug prices, prior authorization, information blocking.
It takes over 3 months to get a prior authorization. Senator Kennedy, do you know something?
The committee will come to order.
Right, and once the lawmakers, they took their turns, they weren't much friendlier than the protesters. Starting with Ron Wyden, who read from a Wall Street Journal op-ed written earlier that morning by the now-fired CDC director, who said, I was told to pre-approve the recommendations of a vaccine advisory panel newly filled with people who have publicly expressed anti-vaccine rhetoric. It is imperative that the panel's recommendations aren't rubber-stamped, but instead are rigorously and scientifically reviewed before being accepted or rejected. So Wyden, he asked him about that, and whereas, usually people in these hearings, they go, oh, I haven't read that article, let me get back to you. RFK just straight up called her a liar on the spot.
No, I did not say that to her. And I never had a private meeting with her. So there are witnesses to every meeting that we have, and all of those witnesses will say, I never said that.
So she's lying today to the American people in the Wall Street Journal.
Yes, sir.
Then you had Wyden asking RFK about his purge of the CDC's vaccine advisory panel, known as ACIP.
Senator, I didn't politicize ACIP. I depoliticize it. The Congress has been investigating ACIP.
All over the country, Mr. Secretary, scientists and doctors are saying otherwise. They're all wrong, too. They're all lying, according to you.
The scientists and doctors are supporting me all over the country. There is division on opinion.
I don't get letters from thousands of people who are not political saying that this set of changes is going to damage American healthcare, and particularly these healthcare agencies, for decades to come. I don't get any letters from people saying, hey, this is going to make a big difference forever.
Maybe you're listening to a selective group of people.
Well, you get me.
Yeah, and I will.
Fine.
I will tell you what, Senator. I will put my mailbag against your mailbag any day of the week.
But before they could schedule a time for some hot mailbag on mailbag action, Senator Michael Bennet took them out, and for a minute they seemed confused about who was pitching and who was batting.
Are you saying that the mRNA vaccine has never been associated with myocarditis or pericarditis in teenagers?
I am simply.
Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I am simply trying to say that the people that you have put on that panel, after firing the entire.
You're evading the question.
No, I'm asking the questions here,
You're
Mr.
evading
Kennedy.
that question.
I'm asking the questions,
I
Mr.
asked you a
Kennedy.
question.
I'm asking the questions for Mr. Kennedy on behalf of parents and schools and teachers all over the United States of America who deserve so much better than your leadership. That's what this conversation is about, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, they deserve the truth, and that's what we're going to give them for the first time in the history of that agency.
Next, you had Mark Warner, who took a different approach and just tried to establish what he called basic facts.
Do you accept the fact that 1 million Americans died from COVID?
I don't know how many died.
You're the Secretary of Health and Human Services. You don't have any idea how many Americans died from COVID?
I don't think anybody knows that because there was so much data chaos.
Do you think the vaccine did anything to prevent additional deaths?
Again, I would like to see the data and talk about the data. I'm
You
not
have
gonna
had this
avoid-
job for 8 months, and you don't know the data about whether the vaccine
No,
saved
and that's the
lives?
problem, is that they didn't have the data.
Then you had Elizabeth Warren grilling him about whether he's made it harder for people to get vaccinated, which, by the way, experts generally seem to agree is true. I mean, just limiting the FDA's approval for the COVID shot alone is expected to disrupt insurance coverage, discourage doctors from prescribing it, and make it harder to find it at pharmacies, which is also why we're already seeing reports that some people are struggling to get appointments for vaccination this fall. So Warren, she sparred with him over this and eventually called in reinforcements from Bernie Sanders.
Most Americans will be able to get it from their pharmacy
the
free.
question is everyone who wants it. That was your promise.
No,
Mr.
I didn't.
Kennedy,
I
not
never
mine.
promised that I was going to
You didn't
recommend
promise-
products
Oh,
with which
I'm
there is no
sorry.
indication.
When you said,
And I know
that
you've
these
taken
were working for
$855,000 from
someone, I'm not
pharmaceutical
going to take them
companies,
away.
Senator.
Every single Republican, I don't mean to be political here, Mr. Chairman, has received PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. Are they all corrupt as well?
And I'm telling you, the American Heart Association has been co-opted by the food industry.
Everybody but you, Senator. But you know what? When you ran for president, we have a corrupt campaign finance system. Maybe you will agree with me on that. I'm saying that the pharmaceutical industry is a greedy institution which are charging us the highest prices in the world. They are pervasive. But to suggest that every institution, the AMA, the pediatrics people, is corrupt because they disagree with you is an insult to the
It's not,
American
but
people.
listen, people disagree with me all the time.
But then finally, we should talk about Kennedy's reception from the Republicans. In part because, most of them just threw him softballs, asking him open-ended questions like, what are you doing to make America healthy again? But there was one in particular who was clearly unhappy with what he's seen from RFK and HHS so far, and that's Bill Cassidy. And the key thing with Cassidy is, yes, he's on the finance committee, but he's also on the committee that oversees HHS. He's a licensed physician, and he is a supporter of vaccines. The big thing is that when RFK was being confirmed back in February, Cassidy was the most visible holdout, and he only agreed to vote for Kennedy after getting several promises from him, namely that he'd work within current vaccine approval and safety monitoring systems, accept recommendations from the vaccine advisory panel, and work closely with Cassidy himself on health policy. And so when Cassidy stepped up for his turn, he made his dissatisfaction very, very clear.
Mr. Secretary, do you agree with me that the president deserves a Nobel Prize for Operation Warp Speed?
Yeah, absolutely, Senator. That was phenomenal.
Let me ask you, but you just told Senator Bennett that the COVID vaccine killed more people than COVID.
Wait,
That was a statement.
I did not say that.
It also surprises me because you've canceled, or HHS did, but apparently under your direction, $500 million in contracts using the mRNA vaccine platform that was critical to Operation Warp Speed. You've called for, and rightly so, that we should restrict participation in agencies for those with conflict of interest. What I am concerned about is that many of those whom you've nominated for ACIP have received revenue as serving as expert witnesses for plaintiffs' attorneys suing vaccine makers. That actually seems like a conflict of interest. Real quickly, do you agree with that?
No, I don't.
I would say effectively we're denying people vaccine.
Senator Cantwell.
You're wrong.
And so, yeah, that was the hearing, essentially. It's unclear if anything productive actually came from it all, but at the very least, it happened. All of this is, of course, RFK's department continues to systematically dismantle the public health system as we know it. And you've got the FDA announcing that it no longer considers taking multiple vaccines for respiratory viruses at the same time safe and effective. So if pharmaceutical companies want to claim that, they'll have to conduct new clinical trials proving it, even though virtually no credible expert doubts it. To be clear, pharmacies can still legally give you the COVID shot and the flu shot at the same time this fall, like they always have, but the extra regulatory hurdle and climate of fear and uncertainty mean that some may be hesitant to. And you have experts saying that could push down overall vaccination rates because many people just won't stomach the inconvenience of having to schedule 2 consecutive appointments instead of 1. But also a big thing is that with the federal government going totally rogue, states and private organizations, they've been forming their own parallel systems to keep people safe. Right? With, for example, California, Washington, and Oregon forming a West Coast Health Alliance yesterday that'll give its own vaccine recommendation. And then in the Northeast, 8 states have discussed launching a similar coalition for several months. But then also at the same time, red states are following the White House's lead with, for example, Florida announcing that it would become the first state in the nation to end all school vaccine mandates, likening them to slavery. So yeah, just a regular old day in America these days. But then in a quick 1-minute break that helps keep the show free for you, let me say, emails, notifications, random pings, I find it impossible to focus sometimes. Like your brain's just on shuffle and the world just keeps hitting refresh. But actually not, since I've been using today's sponsor, Brain.fm. I tried all the usual stuff, Spotify playlists, noise machines, but it never really worked. I'd get distracted after like 2 minutes. But Brain.fm's different. This isn't just music. They actually work with scientists to make sounds that sync with your brain so you get in the zone faster and you stay there longer. They've got modes like deep work, creative, and motivation, and a special mode for ADHD brains. I mean, it's honestly pretty clever. And for me, it's helped us start those tasks I'd normally procrastinate on and stay focused longer than before. I mean, they even won a National Science Foundation grant for improving focus. So, I mean, it's legit. There's even a study in Nature showing their music boosts attention networks and helps people perform better on tasks, especially those with ADHD. Plus, they've got sleep and relaxation modes. I mean, I've been using them to actually calm my brain later in the day, which, I mean, is not an easy thing to do. And so, hey, if you want to try it, you can get 30 days free right now at brain.fm/DeFranco, or just scan the QR code. That's brain.fm/DeFranco for a full month of science-backed music that actually helps you focus. But then next up today, we've got to talk about how a dozen federal judges just issued a chilling warning. Unless